A two-mana commander nearly as old as the format itself is the feature of today's video. And well, you know the saying, no pain, no gain. Welcome back to the channel, you guys. First of all, I just want to say, once again, thank you so much for the support on the Arabella deck tech video. I am always open to suggestions, and we got a couple of suggestions for maybe potential deck techs coming up in the future. So as always, if you ever have any thoughts or opinions on maybe what we cover on the channel, feel free to sound off in the comments below. But today we're talking about Nin the Pain Artist. Now, I was inspired to build Nin after working on the Uvilda deck tech from a few weeks ago because I was just messing around with kind of Izzet tap shenanigans, and I got reminded of Nin's existence, and she's exactly what I'm looking for and what we're trying to do on the channel, which is just taking old school commanders, doing deck techs on them in the modern age, and seeing what kind of fun, silly debauchery we can get up with. So let's not waste any more time and get into it on Nin the Pain Artist. Nin the Pain Artist is a 2-mana commander that costs a blue, a red, and is a 1/1 legendary creature Vidalcan wizard that reads for X, a blue, a red, and tap. Nin the Pain Artist deals X damage to target creature. That creature's controller draws X cards. Now, when this card first came out, I had always wanted to build Nin, but to be honest, at the time, I just really never knew how. I just wasn't sure what direction to take her or how I wanted to build her, but that question has been answered in the modern era. We're going to be using this deck to do card draw, damage, and shenanigans. We want to use Nin to juice out our own creatures and then use those massive draws to either cast big things or use the draw damage pingers to kill our opponents. However, no need to be vague, let's get straight into it and begin with our creatures. In total in the deck, we are running 24 creatures, ranging from mana value 2 all the way to mana value 6, with creatures needing to meet one of a few potential thresholds to be included in the deck. One of the first and arguably most important thresholds is the creature able to draw us cards? Starting with Jacob Hawken and Humble Defector, these 2-mana creatures are able to come into play early and offer us card draw. Plus, with Humble Defector, I always like the idea of being able to activate Humble Defector and then killing him with Nin the Pain Artist, so that way we do not give our opponents card draw. Jacob Hawken also has the ability to scale into the late game, transforming into Hawken's Insight that allows us to play things we've exiled underneath it throughout the game for free once per turn. Jace's Archivist is also a neat creature we're including in the deck that allows us to wheel as an activated ability. Kefnet the Mindful offers a sitting on board creature that allows Nin to sink damage into while also giving us the ability to draw cards. Sicarian Infiltrator leans into the flash speed of this deck, allowing us to go wide with a potential board state that draws cards with an ETB trigger. However, one of the strongest and arguably my favorite card draw source in the deck is Body of Knowledge, a 5-mana creature avatar that reads Body of Knowledge's power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size, and whenever Body of Knowledge is dealt damage, draw that many cards. This creature pairs exceptionally well with Nin the Pain Artist, growing bigger and bigger the more damage we deal to it. Plus, since we're running cards like Psychosis Crawler, a 5-mana artifact creature that reads whenever we draw a card, each opponent loses a life, and power and toughness is also equal to the number of cards in our hand, this becomes game-ending quickly, allowing us to draw cards very fast, at instant speed, and damaging all of our opponents while we do so. Speaking of neat and effective mana sinks for Nin the Pain Artist, Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter allow us to turn our commander's mana sink into potential lethal blows. Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter are 2 of the best creatures in the deck, and in fact, they're so important that we're even running Fabricate, a sorcery that allows us to search our library for an artifact card and put it into our hand to shuffle it. Fabricate allows us to fetch out Stuffy Doll and get it into play early. Plus, if Stuffy Doll is already in play or has unfortunately been removed, Fabricate also allows us to sneak out our Psychosis Crawler and grab it into our hand. Another powerful mana sink is Screaming Nemesis. Now, while we have to be careful to ensure we don't kill the Nemesis, as it only has 3 toughness, this allows us to invest some card draw into it and then marking our opponents with damage that makes them unable to gain life for the rest of the game. Now, Psychosis Crawler is great, just like Stuffy Doll, but it's not the only creature we're running that cares about us drawing cards. In fact, we're running Izzet, Perun, and also Izzet the Firemind to mimic the Psychosis Crawler trigger. While the Izzet triggers are not as strong as Psychosis Crawler, and the fact that it's targeted damage instead of across the board life loss, these are still powerful and potent dragons, with Izzet Perun offering us card draw when players cast instants and sorcery spells, and Izzet the Firemind allowing itself to tap to draw a card, which leans into the tap strategies we already have throughout the deck. While not direct damage, the Locust God is also one of our top-end card draw rewarders, giving us a 1/1 blue, red, and red insect creature token with flying and haste whenever we draw a card. With Izzets and the Locust God, the top end of this deck is extremely powerful and rewards us for doing what this deck wants to do, drawing cards. However, we're going to need to make sure we have the ability to get there. So on the lower end of card draw synergies, we have Ironcrag Pyromancer that allows us to cast a Thunderbolt basically every time we draw our second card. Nadir Kraken that allows us to pay 1 every time we draw to make a 1/1 and put a 1/1 counter on it. And the Red Terror. While not a card draw creature, the Red Terror is an extremely weird card that I just want to take a moment to point out. Whenever a red source we control deals damage to one or more permanent inner players, put a counter on the Red Terror. This means we can continuously use the Red Terror as a body bag for Nin's trigger, and it will continue to grow as we do so. However, it is not exclusively only Nin's trigger that will get the Red Terror bigger. The Ironcrag Pyromancer or the Screaming Nemesis, as mentioned before, work. Either Izzet's work as well, or even all those flying insects from the Locust God. Now, we did mention this deck has tap synergy, as that's an important theme with Nin. Starting off, I want to discuss Sting, the Glinting Dagger, which is ironically named because she's a pain artist and potentially the best equipment in the deck is a weapon called Sting. I love it.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
Sting is a 2-mana legendary artifact equipment that reads equipped creature gets +1/1 and has haste. At the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature. This allows Nin to be continuously activated on our opponent's turns. However, Nin's ability is obviously quite mana intensive, so we're running the Enigma Jewel, a blue legendary artifact that enters the battlefield tapped, but it can be tapped to add 2. Spend this mana only to activate abilities. Now, the Enigma Jewel is quite good, especially if we're able to get into play early. However, the most important one drop in the deck is certainly Training Grounds, an enchantment for 1 blue that reads activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This allows Nin to draw us 2 cards with just an Izzet activation, and that is important as it leans into the frequent untap synergies that we have in the deck. If we're untapping Nin and not able to consistently have the mana to activate her, we're not going to be getting as much value out of her as possible. Now, because a lot of this deck wants to function at flash and instant speed, we obviously have a good bit of interaction. We are in total running 8 instants in the deck, but I want to start with pointing out 2. 3 Steps Ahead and Mystic Reflection are 2 flexible and powerful interactive pieces. Let me explain. As we discussed, cards like Psychosis Crawler, Stuffy Doll, and Brash Taunter are extremely important and valuable to our win condition. 3 Steps Ahead allows us to create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature we control, while also being an interaction piece. Plus, Mystic Reflection can be flexed as either a way to dead at a deadly creature coming into our opponent's play, or we can use it to amplify a weak creature we have in play to turn into a Stuffy Doll or Brash Taunter for ourselves. In addition, we have Cerebral Vortex, another weird and flexible interaction piece. For 1, a blue and a red, Cerebral Vortex read target player draws 2 cards, and then the Cerebral Vortex deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards they've drawn this turn. At base, this is 3 mana, draw 2, take 2 at instant speed, and I'm very okay with that. However, this card has the ability to kill our opponents. We can either mana sink into Nin and give our creature an opponent controls the damage, therefore having our opponent draw and finishing them off with a Cerebral Vortex. But to be honest, most of the time, our opponents are drawing a crazy amount of cards themselves and we don't have to do anything about that. So I find that this card can easily turn into 3 mana, kill a player, as long as they have, let's say 20 or less life at instant speed, and they really never see it coming. And that's what is so fun about Magic. When you can hit them with something and they're like, what? That's what we like to do. In addition, because we have a Foretell card, I'm running Saw It Coming, simply so that way, if anybody is playing with a consistent play group, you have 2 cards with Foretell, so you could potentially bluff about which one maybe it is. The last piece of interaction that I really want to highlight is Reinterpret, an instant that reads for 2, a blue and a red, counter target spell. You may cast a spell with an equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. Reinterpret is extremely fun and is allowing huge tempo swings as long as we have the mana up at instant speed. And this deck, as I stated, likes to be at instant speed, so we often have the ability to do this. Countering an Omniscience into Adventure's Journal is not just a fairy tale, it's something I've genuinely done. Granted, there are times where Reinterpret isn't going to feel amazing because it's not going to have either a great target or you just don't have something to get big from the cheat in. However, to be honest, that's just not been my experience. Close out this video by going over just some pieces of the deck that I feel like maybe didn't fit in other sections or I just failed to mention. Starting with Monastery Siege into Teferi's Ageless Insight. Monastery Siege makes it easy for us to hit our 2 card draw triggers on our own turn without investing mana, and Teferi's Ageless Insight obviously is powerful in the deck for apparent reasons. In regards to board wipes, we're wanting to lean damage heavy, so we're running Reckless Endeavor and Blasphemous Act, as these synergize with our Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunters. Plus, Devastation Tide and Reforge the Soul are 2 miracle cards that we can activate if they're potentially drawn on our opponent's turns with Nin or some other card draw mechanism. I also really like Devastation Tide because it's able to return our Stuffy Doll to hand, allowing us to replay him and reselect an opponent should we need to do so. Meekstone is a 1 mana artifact that reads creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap steps. While this card might be a bit more aggressive than some people may want to run, I think it's worth including. We are not really a combat heavy deck, and it's important that we don't get ran over once we start drawing a lot of cards. Meekstone as a way to ensure that, but you could easily replace this with a potential Crawl Space or maybe Silent Arbiter if you'd prefer. But to be honest, I think Meekstone is a bit nicer than Silent Arbiter, but maybe I'm crazy. You let me know below. Alrighty, you guys, thank you for checking out the Nin the Pain Artist deck tech. You know, if you liked it and you thought it was at least pretty interesting, you should, subscribe maybe. It always helps with a smaller page like this to get some interaction for the algorithm. So you should at least consider it. Maybe even like it. What did I miss? Anything I should have included in this? There's so many new cards coming out, especially with Spider-Man, etc., etc. I'm sure I probably missed something. So if there's a good inclusion, let the people know below, okay? Anybody interested in old school commanders, we gotta have each other's backs, okay? It's a crazy universes beyond world out here, and we need to stick together, okay? Alright, I will see you guys next week with another deck tech, and I'm working on a silly magic related but also not a deck tech video that I'm gonna be cooking in the background. I'm excited to share with y'all once that is done. So yeah, that's good. Y'all have a good one. See you in the next video. Bye.